Five Out Basketball, five segments, five takes. This is the podcast for NBA conversations. This is Five Out Basketball, and it starts in 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, y'all? So it's your boy Everton. As you can see, this is episode 8 of the 5 Out podcast. I'm locked in today, man. I'm very excited for what we got going on, and it's just me. This week is a solo episode. So for those who didn't tune in last week, Joey did hint at the fact that it would be a solo episode of just me. So episode 8, man, let's just call it the Everton show. I'm joking, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm a little nervous without Joey here, but we'll make it work, man. You know, we will never miss a week. We will always be locked in. So episode 8, man, solo episode, Everton show, man. To all my Joey fans out there, he will be back next week. It will be his solo episode because I will be out of town. But let's cheer on Joey out in St. Louis doing his thing. Let's get right to this episode. So, on the chopping block, we have a new segment. We are starting a segment called the Player Breakdown. And this week's Player Breakdown is of someone who, I mean, let's be honest, one of the more notable names as of right now in the league, Victor Wembanyama. So, to get right into it, and for player breakdowns, what I'm gonna do is highlight how he's played this whole season. You know, highlight any little like news or whatever stuff like that, like new things that have he's developed, whatever, and just point out all the good things I like so far. You know, little things like strengths and stuff, and even some of the weaknesses, which every player has either or, and then my potential, what I think they have going forward. So yeah, just a few things to look at into Victor. So again, he's an easy guy to start with, right? I mean, come on, it's hard not to talk about Victor. So looking at how Victor has been this season, he's played 56 games, averaging 21 points, 10 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.5 steals, and 3.4 blocks. Oh man, that's insane. And then along with shooting 47% from the field, 33% from three, and 81% from the free throw line. So taking a look at his overall season, I mean, as a rookie, these are some insane numbers. The block numbers jump out at you with 3.4 blocks a game. I mean, come on, who's doing that? And I think what's impressive about it is, for me personally, right, when he was getting drafted into the league, I said to myself, all right, and a couple NBA players said the same thing, so I'm not gonna act like I'm some savant, but you know, the notion was, hey, he comes to this game and his offensive game isn't as refined and polished as, we hope. He can at least be a defensive guy and he can at least block shots. Because look, you can't teach 7'4". At the end of the day, him being that tall and having that long of arms will always be a plus because look, he'll just be able to block shots. And he's done that at the highest level. I mean, we're talking about games where he's getting consistently 5 blocks, 10 blocks, insane numbers from Wemby on the defensive end. And truthfully, if it wasn't for him being on the Spurs, he'd probably be a DPOY candidate, like higher up. Like he probably is in the conversation because you just can't bat your eye at a guy putting up numbers like that. But at the end of the day, team numbers do kind of matter, and it's kind of hard to give a guy Defense Player of the Year when his team is literally like the worst team in his conference. So I get that. But overall in the season, I've been impressed with what I've seen from Wemby on both ends of the ball. Offensively, it looks like most times dude just really can't guard him. I mean, you're not blocking his jumper. He's up here, and when it comes to being inside, it's really hard to block him, because he's right by the basket. Long arm, 7'4". Most people can't even get up to where he's putting the ball at. He's kind of just dropping the ball in the basket. So I think as he gets older, I'll talk about that later. But as of right now, currently, I think he's been phenomenal. And it's hard to argue that he hasn't already placed himself in the top 25 in the league right now. Like, I know people are gonna range him from whenever, like top 30, whatever, but this is easily a top 20 player in the league right now. I know that sounds crazy to think about, but I feel like you would struggle naming 20 players better than Victor Wembanyama right now. So I don't know, it's hard. And then, taking a look at, so that was the overall season, but let's move on to some more specifics. Since the All-Star break, specifically, 22 points per game, 12 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals, 5 blocks, 47% from the field, 42% from three, and that's on 6 attempts a game, and 84% from the free throw line. Now, I didn't talk about this much in the overall part of his season, but 84%? Look, I know we've gotten more used to bigs being able to shoot free throws, so I guess it's not as crazy, but I don't want to say back in my day, but when I first got into the NBA, the thing with bigs usually always used to be these dudes could not shoot free throws. Like it was rare bigs were good free throw shooters. So to see a guy like him being able to shoot free throws is always a plus as a big, just as a big to be able to shoot free throws. Because it means that if they foul you, they have to keep in mind you're a good free throw shooter. They can't just hack you. The 42% from three, that really jumps out. 42% from three on 6 attempts. So it's not like he's just taking two a game and making one. No, this guy's genuinely shooting threes and he's making them at a 42% clip. And keep in mind, this is a guy who you cannot block his jump shot. Like you're not going to be able to block a jump shot from Victor Wembanyama. And I know we've probably seen that clip of him sizing up Kyle Anderson, doing tween, step back, tray ball. Easy because you're not blocking that shot. And as long as he gets his handle more refined and more clean, even though that was clean, like man, that was clean. And to do a step back, you're not block. Once he gets here, you're not blocking that. Like you have to block him on the way up if you really want a chance in getting that block because it ain't gonna happen at the top. If he's already at the top, it ain't gonna happen. You're not blocking it. But yeah, those are his numbers since All-Star break. And again, don't pay attention to how many wins the Spurs have because people have been spending a lot of time. Oh, the Spurs are this and that. They're 11 and blah. Dude, the team's not good. Don't worry about that right now. Just worry about what you're seeing from Wemby. And if you've been watching him, you know that he's impressed. Like he's looked like the guy that we expected. Like number one pick, generational talent, best prospect since LeBron James, this and that. Everything you've heard, you all heard that stuff before, and he's done that. He's genuinely done that. Like he's been what people expect him to be, and it's all the more impressive. So I just hope that he continues to do it. I think he will, but that's neither here nor there. But another thing that jumps out, 5 blocks. I mean, again, we expected this. I expected three, but five since All-Star break, man. And some of those games is like 7 blocks, 10 block game. Like he's been getting blocks, bro. And I think what impresses me most is if you watch the games, right? He covers so much of that court because he's already 7'4", long arms, and he moves well on his feet. He covers so much ground to the point where you'll see plays where teams will just kind of avoid him because it's like he's getting steals now too. I also said 2 steals. He's getting steals and blocks. So it's almost like you have to be worried about him stretching his arm out to get that steal or putting his arm up to get that block. And he's very good about timing the blocks as well. Like, I mean, it doesn't take much when you're as tall and long as he is, but like it becomes easier when you have good timing because sometimes guys like him, they struggle with foul trouble. Like they just jump at legit everything. And I think he does a solid job of not just jumping at everything and legit timing his blocks and getting good blocks. And that's a huge, huge thing as a center. Again, the ability to not only get blocks, but not be someone who is gonna consistently be in foul trouble can always be a plus to your team. Because sometimes these dudes, you look at him and it's like, oh man, he gets 3 blocks a game. And it's like, yeah, but he's fouling out most games, or he's getting in foul trouble every game, and that only hurts your team. So I think that's impressive that he's been able to get those block numbers while still being able to not be in foul trouble. Realistically, the only reason why he doesn't play that much is because he's on minute restriction. One thing I didn't mention, since the All-Star break, he's only been in around 31 minutes a game. So that makes those numbers even more impressive. Putting up numbers like that and only 31 minutes a game. I've said this before. Guys like Wemby, who are the number one guy on their team and have to do so much, they tend to usually end up playing like 36 minutes a game. Imagine Wemby getting 36 minutes a game. Imagine those Wemby numbers in 36 minutes per game. I mean, come on. Um, like it's insane. And then the last thing I want to talk about since the All-Star break, 5 assists. Now on the season, 3.5 is pretty solid, but 5 assists. He had a triple double at one point. Not over the well, yeah, he's had a triple double this season. Wemby, bro. Now, for me, again, I watched his first game in Las Vegas in the summer league, and I know people wanted to highlight that he didn't shoot well and he got dunked on by the one, the only Kai Jones. Um, but yeah, Wemby. One thing I did notice that stood out to me more than just him getting like a few blocks and looking really tall and stuff was he had some pretty solid passing vision. Now, it wasn't like he was racking up assists, but he was definitely like the vision was there. Like I saw him make some passes where I'm like, oh, whoa, like he saw that. Like, and it's good to do when you're that tall, you can see over the whole defense. So to be able to one be a willing passer will always be a plus because it's like, look, I can see over all of y'all. As long as people are moving, I can make that pass. And then it's about actually making the pass that makes it even better. So I think it's impressive to see what he's done as a passer for me, because that's always going to be a plus. If you're going to be a guy like Wemby, who's probably going to end up having the ball in his hands a lot, being able to pass like that, it's going to really help your team out, especially as the team gets better. Hopefully, the Spurs, I think they will, but hopefully, the Spurs build around him correctly. As they continue to do that, him being a solid passer as a big will only open up his game more because once you become a good passer and teams have to kind of scout that for you, you're all the more dangerous because teams have to look at, all right, we want to play the shot, but we also have to play the pass because this dude, well, actually, one, he'll make the pass, but two, he'll see the pass. So all in all, Wemby since All-Star break and just this season has looked incredible. The sky's the limit for him. He's only about 20 years old, which is insane to think about. Me and Wemby are the same age, and look what I'm doing, talking about him, and he's over there hooping. Crazy. Next thing I wanted to address is that 5x5 game. And he almost had back-to-back 5x5 games. And while the game itself is crazy, like a rookie getting that is insane, this and that. Even though I'll be honest with you, Wemby's one of those dudes I expected to see that from. Like I knew the scoring would happen, so I knew that would be a lock. Rebounds would be there too. He's tall. He's a pretty solid passer, like I just talked about. So I figured he could easily get 5 to 6 assists in a game. Steals was the one I was a little bit like, okay, can he itch out 5 steals in the game? And then the blocks, I was pretty confident on. So I figured he'd be able to get 4 of those things. I was just like, man, can he get the steals? That's the only thing that I was like, can that happen? But he got them steals, y'all. But the thing that really stood out to me outside of the game was his comments after talking about Michael Jordan because they mentioned him with Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan's done it. And he said, well, did Michael Jordan win in those games? Because that's all I care about. That is a great thing to hear. If I'm a Spurs fan or a Spurs like GM or anything like that, I'm thinking to myself, man, we got ourselves a good one. Because sometimes dudes are as talented, maybe not say as talented, but like there's dudes who are crazy talented, have all the physical tools, this and that, but they don't have this. They don't have that mentality to really become great, and to see to hear the things I've heard from Wemby so far, he really wants to win. Like after every time the Spurs win, which is rare, unfortunately, he's always like, man, I love this. I want to do this. I want to get this feeling all the time. He wants to win already. And that's a great trait to have, especially as a superstar. If you're going to be a guy who I've said in the next 5 years, I think will be the best player in the league. You want a guy who's gonna want to win games, and not just all the extra stuff that comes with being an NBA player. Like a dude who genuinely is like, "Yo, I want to be a winner." And if he keeps chasing, those dreams, and Wemby's gonna win some things in this league. So the next thing I want to talk about when it comes to Wemby are his strengths and his weaknesses. So strengths, some of the easy ones that come to mind is size. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 7'4" guy. His height alone was gonna one get him to the league, and two, he'll stay in the league as long as he continues to be 7'4" with eight foot wingspan. So size is already a strength of his. Another thing is his skill. Like, we've seen the footage. The guy can legitimately dribble. Now he's not gonna come break you down like Kyrie and do all this, but if there's a center on him, the guy's got a little bit of a dribble package, and he's not gonna just get ripped up the whole game. So I think that's a good plus to have is a good skill set, along with look, being able to shoot at that size, crazy plus. We're talking about off the dribble too. Like this is we're talking bag work. tween, step back, midi over who? Anybody. It doesn't matter. So I think his skill, being able to, play like that is going to be essential for him moving forward. And then, one of the other strengths that stood out to me is his poise. I think Wemby has great poise at a young age, That's always a plus. Sometimes these dudes come in really young and, which is not a bad thing. They come in really young and don't really have a lot of poise for the game. They're kind of sporadic and he doesn't really have that issue. Wemby came in with some great poise. I think that's because, when you play overseas, the way in which they kind of shape your game is a little bit different than it is over here in America. I think in overseas they kind of make your game more skilled and more patient. And over in America, man, they just let you hoop. They see how good you are and they say, "Hey, go hoop, bro. Go hoop. Show us how good you are." So, that's definitely one of his major strengths. I think those three things definitely stand out to me as a strength for Wemby. Weaknesses. Now, I think the clearest one is his frame. It hasn't killed him too much in the league so far. So I'll say this. I don't think he needs to go do the Giannis thing and get what, like 40, maybe more like 80 pounds. I don't know, but crazy amount of weight added to his frame to be dominant. I think he can still be dominant while putting on, I don't know, like 20 some more pounds. As long as he's not getting pushed around, which isn't going to really be an issue regardless. I think if Wemby just puts on a little bit of weight, because here's the thing, right? Let's say Wemby gets huge, like 270, 80 pounds. It's going to mess up his game because then he's going to be a lot more, and then he might move a little wonkier. Because sometimes when you put on too much weight, you don't move as smooth, and your jumper, especially for him, a guy who's going to probably end up being a jump shooter, if you get that much bigger, your game's going to be, hurt because it's like, yo, I can't shoot as well anymore because my arms are bigger. Like some guys don't really age well when they get bigger like that in terms of becoming a shooter. I think for Wemby, he just doesn't need to be in that position to have to do that. So I think his best bet is nah, I'll just put on a little bit of weight so I'm not just a stick, but not to the point where I'm like almost too bulky for my own good in terms of how I want my game to be. So I think if he can focus on that. And the other thing is, I guess, consistency. I mean, he's young, so I don't really want to hold that over his head too much. And looking at a situation, think about it like this. To start the season, Jeremy Sohan was point guard. What did you expect? Like I think as the Spurs continue to build this team and hopefully, I mean, it's easy, but hopefully just get a point guard to give him the ball. He can probably be more consistent. And as his teammates look for him more, I think it'll just be easier to make his game more consistent. So I don't think this is a huge issue for him, but nonetheless, it's still something to look out for because at the end of the day, hey, you do want him to be more consistent. Any superstar, you want them to be more consistent. So those are my things about Wemby. Hope you enjoy the player breakdown because I love this segment. Be able to talk about some of these NBA players. We'll be continuing to follow these out more often. So don't be shy. Comment some players you want to see. I'd be curious to hear what you guys want to hear, like what kind of players you want us to talk about. So, that was a player breakdown.
Thank you so much for tuning into this segment of the 5 Out Podcast. I am Joey the Master Lee Master, and me and Everton are so thankful for your guys' support. If you want to keep supporting us, please check out the full podcast on Spotify and follow our TikTok account. Both of those will be in the bio, and make sure to leave a like and stay smooth.